Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the PanelCast. I'm your host, AJ, and I don't want to be here today. I think that is the general consensus of all of us here in the room. We have the unfortunate and regrettable task of bringing you the sad news that the fourth leaf of our clover, Richard Duron, passed away last Thursday. And it's kind of messed all of us up, put us all places we didn't want to be and weren't ready for yet.
At all.
Let me introduce everybody. To my right is Joel.
Hey guys.
You guys know him from Fictional Studios. I got Joey and Justin from FP, as well as Andrea from FP here. Sean Carter, Big Sean, old friend of ours, me and Richard's from way back in the day. Just call him Big Buddha. You don't like that name, but yeah. So tonight we're gonna sit here and we're gonna talk about Richard, and we're gonna share some great stories, and we're gonna tell you about the way that Richard affected our lives and how awesome of a person he was, and just how much he'll be missed. So yeah, but before I can do all that, his son Steven has something to say. So here we go.
And maybe a part of him that not a lot of people got to see. My dad was basically one of the biggest influences in my life since I was born. I would always be called his mini-me. I was always his best friend. I was always attached to his hip, even with the amount that he was working throughout my childhood. He always felt bad because he would be missing any plays or any awards or any ceremonies that I would have, but I always knew, and my grandparents would always tell me that he was working to make sure that I had whatever I wanted. My dad worked his entire life to try to make sure that I was taken care of. He did everything within his power to make sure that I always, had new clothes. I had whatever food I wanted. He would take me out to the movies. He worked his ass off to make sure that I had the best childhood that I could, and I'm going to be forever thankful for him for that. For all of my life, even since I was a kid, I've struggled along with anxiety and mental issues. And a large part of me finding ways to cope with those was actually my dad, because he would tell me that he would also struggle with some of those issues. I know he was a big people person, but if you really got to sit down and talk to him, you would find out how much people scared him, and how the way that he treated people, the way that he acted, was really a reflection of the fact that he just wanted people to feel accepted and loved, and he didn't want people to feel pain in the way that a lot of other people really could care less. My dad was always the type to try to support people and to try to do everything that he could to let people know, hey, if you need anything, I'm here for you. Sometimes he would outstretch himself to his own detriment, but he was just that type of person. He was an incredibly giving person. He was incredibly generous, incredibly loving, incredibly kind. He has found so much family on top of the large family that we come from, and the support that they give, and the love that we all give one another. He has created this community of friends and this community of people that has really encompassed everything that he wanted to find in his relationships with people. When he started the business, basically his want was to bring the passion and joy that he had for collecting that he got from my grandfather and kind of curated more when my grandfather passed away, to bring that passion and that love into the community, because toys and collectibles were always a big thing in his life ever since I was a kid. I remember the magazines he would buy, the toys he would buy, the wrestling memorabilia, everything. He has always been a collector. And it was a way for him to connect to a community and kind of hold on to a piece of himself, that especially since he had two children at a fairly young age, to connect with that childhood that he lost in a way, and to allow for him to have a space to be able to find common ground with people and show his support for them with different things. My dad was always looking for ways to make people feel like they were on top of the world. He was always looking for ways to be able to help people understand the different viewpoints. He was argumentative in a way. He would always say sometimes he'll argue with people just so that they have to prove that they're right. I was a little annoyed by it. I am still a little annoyed by it. It's just something he liked to do, because he felt like if you can't stand on your own two feet with somebody who is trying to support you and in his mind is trying to help you, then when somebody is coming at you with the other side of the argument, then you're just going to stumble. I understand where his viewpoint came from with that. He was always just really trying to find ways to help people. Since his passing, I've had so many people reach out and tell me that he's helped them through troubling times, tell me that he was always there for them, tell me that he was their rock. My dad was always trying to be that for people. And I know a lot of the stories are going to mimic the same thing, that he's always been there for them. He's always been a friend when, they were in need. When anybody needed money, he would try to find a way that he could help. In the toy community alone, so many people have spoken to me about the fact that he took the passions and love that he had and he transformed them into a way for him to be able to make other people feel included, feel like they were seen. He would help people find toys, he would help people to find things that they had been looking for years. He would go out of his way because he was just that kind of person. He wanted to do everything he could to tell people, hey, I see you. I see what you love. I see what makes you you, and I'm going to support that, and I'm going to help you grow that. I couldn't possibly put into words the amount of love and adoration that I have for my father. I know his absence is going to be felt by myself, his friends, acquaintances, and family forever. We're always going to feel like we're missing a piece of ourselves because he was so prominent in our lives. I want to thank you all for the love and support that you've shown me. It echoes the message that my father tried to leave behind, of generosity, of kindness, of love. Thank you all so much for donating. Thank you all so much for reaching out to me and making sure that I'm okay, for offering to bring me food, for offering to come help clean the house, for offering to help with the toys that he left behind that I'm clueless about. But there is such a community that is surrounding his passing that it's made everything so much easier. So thank you all for your love, your support, and your kindness. And don't forget that every time you bring somebody joy in this world, you are helping me keep the legacy of my father, Richard Duron, alive.
Well, there you have it, everybody. That was from Stephen Duron, Richard's son. and bring everybody back into the fold. People have been coming back. Sorry, I'm trying to unmute everybody. Give me a second. People have been coming in and out during the show, so now we have more guests. So let's say hi to everybody. We got Alexander and Janelle who have joined us.
Hey, buddy.
Hello, guys. Alexander, from the Shadow News Network, and Janelle, from Forbidden Panel. Sorry about the volume for that one, guys. I even recorded it, and I couldn't do anything about it. My bad. But in the meantime, we did get some messages. Speaking of the devil, who we talked about earlier, Jason Boatwright wanted to send some love out there.
What's up, Jason?
And we have Chet Maddox. All right. Some other people are definitely saying hi, showing their love. Yeah. So let's see what we can do. Hey, Buddha, why don't you start us off? You want to tell us stories about Richard, your favorite ones?
Favorite? There's too many. It's crazy because I know most of you guys that are close to him know about his sister passing, and I came to Rialto '86, and like I told to this day we talk about it. We don't even really know how we met, how we connected, but when it happened, it was instant. Like, back then you got phone numbers, hang out after school, and then we played football together. More likely that's where it began. But he had just shut off from the world from what mom told my mom. They had a conversation, and it wasn't until me and him became friends that he started opening back up. That always stuck with me, not knowing, but you find out that you can help somebody come out of something so devastating. You know what I mean? His sister, his best friend at the time. But then after that, it was inseparable. I was always at his house. We were always going places through high school. We'd ride together to school, and I'd go to school. Dad would let us out on the corner, leave for work, and Richard would go the opposite way. And then we would meet up after school and go home. Bro, what are you doing? But over the years, I don't know. I'll go to Buddha. Augie, since you brought that up. I'm sorry. Y'all, I'm bouncing all over the place. This is hard.
Hey, you know what? Nobody has there's no format to follow here, brother. So
No.
Yeah. I started calling everybody else that for some odd reason. And it ended up being my nickname. It spread through the school like wildfire, and I ended up being Buddha. So that's kind of how the hell did that happen? And it was him. He was going around telling people to call me that. So, bro, I just remember walking down Riverside Avenue going home, and a liquor store. Well, it used to be a liquor store right there, right before you get to 2nd Street. Yeah, where the Rex, used to be a pharmacy, but it was when Jolt first came out, and we would go and stop at that liquor store every day and buy Jolt. And I tell you, it's like a drug reference. It was like doing a line because it was nothing but sugar and caffeine. Bro, we were bouncing off the walls all fucking day.
Sugar and all the caffeine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was our favorite soda up until, honestly, I think that started in 8th or 9th grade, and we used to drink them. Well, not every day, but a lot up until 10th or 11th grade. I think that's when they stopped making them. And it was just so many days when we walked home, walked to meet up. It's like I said, it was, he's the reason why I got into wrestling or more into it. We started going Dad took us to American Bash in LA. That was my first live wrestling event. And I don't don't know. It's just when you become part of somebody's family. Like I said, this is the hardest shit outside of losing my grandparents that I've been through. Like me and this dude's been friends since '86, and of course, life happens. You know, you get your families, your careers, or whatever you want to have it. So it's not. But every time we came together, it was like we never missed a beat. We never missed a beat. And the very last time I was over there with him, we went through a bottle of JMO, smoked cigars, and just reminisced. And I can take that with me. But like everybody else, man, this is hard. This is rough. I'm still kind of numb. It hit me today or the night Augie called me. But ever since, I just been in. I don't know how to describe it. I did have a weird, I guess you could say, epiphany. Monday or Tuesday, I'm driving home from work, and I'm just, thinking about him. And his birthday's coming up in October, and he would have been 52. But it's the fact that he was 51, and then his picture in ninth grade playing football, he wore 51. I don't know that. It just, that popping in my head just did something to me. Like, I don't know if it's a sign or what, but it just kind of freaked me out for a second. But yeah, that's yeah. I just, yeah. That's all I got right now, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh. You got nothing to be sorry for, man. Not at all.
Yeah.
I saw that too. I noticed that too, that his jersey was number 51, and I started tripping out. We both were like, yeah.
And it's never fun to be the first kid to go up and do the presentation, but hey, you did it. It's you handled that. So
I'm a talker, so it really don't bother me. But it's just shit, bro. Like I said, it's damn near 40 years. You know what I mean? And that's another thing, bro. Like we've never had a falling out. Like I've never said something, or he's never said or done nothing to piss each other off to where we stopped talking because of that. From early on, if I was fucking up, I could say it. He could tell me, and I could take it, and vice versa. We were able to hold each other accountable. We might not have listened or adhered to the advice, but we've always had that communication, and that's something I will always cherish. It was never no love lost, no. Like I said, there was never no time that we wasn't talking. It was because we were mad.
Yeah,
so I can. Yeah, not too many people can say that about a friend that long. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that was my brother, man. He was the animal to my hawk. We were the Legion of Doom. That's crazy.
Speaking of that jersey number, we have another testimonial. Let me go ahead and throw that on here for us. This one's going to be a little tough for you and me both, Sean, and probably Joey too. So I apologize. I had a schedule. Here we go.
I grew up. Hi, everyone. My name is John Hartronet. I grew up John Gutierrez, and Richard knew me as John Gutierrez, and my other name as well. It came as a shock, obviously, to everybody, and I know I may repeat things and I may say I at the same time, but I don't want to minimize the impact Richard made on my life, because the things that happen in my life affect so many people. And in hindsight, looking back of what he did and his parents, Renee and Jane, did for me is immense. I unfortunately lost touch with him 2000s or so. I got married, and in that, I moved to Arizona and the gap widened, but I still remained friends with him. Here and there, I would talk to him. I was there for Steven, I babysitted him, and he called me Nino as well. And that was, to me, that was an honor because I was like another Duron, in the house. I mean, I had a lot of problems at home, and not that I was doing drugs, not that I was misbehaving or anything like that. There was a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, a lot of pain, a lot of scary things happening that as a child I grew up and I saw. A lot of fighting that affects you, and you just don't want to be there anymore. And as you age, you want to get out of there as soon as you can. And I asked Jane if I could stay there, and they opened their arms to me. I mean, it gave me a home for the time being. And I had a lot of wonderful memories. I won't share everything with you because I know they got to fit a lot of the other people's videos in here, and whoever wants to talk about Richard. It took me a while because I grew up with him. Like I went to Rather Junior High with him. I went to high school with him. Some of my adult life, I moved in with him. We had an apartment in Upland, California, and he eventually moved out. I stayed there, but I still remained friends with him over the years. He had his things going on in his life, and I got a job at the Walmart there, but I was living in Rialto. Richard was working at a flower shop, I believe, working all night, and I did not have a ride home. The buses were closed. And he was tired, and he drove, I think, for a week, every night to come pick me up, just to take me home. And I'll never forget that. I played street hockey with him. I only watch wrestling. I watch wrestling because of him. There's a lot of things I got into, like movies because of him, comics because of him, music because of him. So he played a big part of my life, a huge part. And it took me a while to realize that the persona he put out to people was not always him, and that he really did care. But he had his own pain that he went through very early in life. He loved his grandparents. I remember that. And he loved being a good father. He loved his sons. And that was probably one of the hallmarks of the Duron family. They took care of their family. I remember one time I didn't want to impose or eat at their house, and I made his dad so angry that he said, "If you're going to be here, you're going to eat." And I was their cabinet guy. Like, I would clean their cabinets. I would clean Jane's cabinets, the toilets, stuff like that. I worked to stay there. They were the most wonderful, gracious people. There's a lot more I can say. And I'm still kind of getting this through. But to help someone that went through domestic abuse the way I did, it's huge. I will miss him. Thank you.
And yeah, echoing the sentiment that all of us have right there. I'm muting everybody. Give me a second here. She's still muted. So, yeah. How's everybody doing?
Hey, real quick. So to piggyback off of what John said, I had a couple of instances where I had to stay there with them. Like one time, my mom, pregnant with my little brother, ended up sick, and I was just talking to Richard about it, and you know, she's gonna end up at the hospital, blah blah blah. And before I knew it, him and Dad pulled up and was like, Pops was told my mom, he was like, he's gonna stay with us. Not, you know, it wasn't no, you know, if you need. So he was like, he literally told her like, he's gonna come stay with us, you know, as long as he needs to. And that's one thing I will say, like John said, man, that if you were family, you were family. You were treated like one of their own. I will never forget the way Mom loved on me as well. I was her little chocolate drop. That's what she called me every time she saw me, up until she passed. I see them out at the store, and I'd be like, or if she walked up on me and was like, my chocolate drop. And I looked, and it was like being a kid all over again. So, yeah, that is no lie. I don't know how many of you have experienced or, you know, that part of them, but if you was around your family, you were treated as one of their, you know, as one of the family. And I will say, Richard was the reason I got drunk on my 21st birthday. I didn't drink till I was 21. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the liquor barn that used to be in Upland, Rancho, right there off of Foothill. It looked like a little liquor store till you go inside. He said, let's go downstairs. I said, downstairs? Anything you could drink or didn't want to drink was in there. He said, get whatever you want. I got so fucking drunk. First of all, I was mixing liquor. Well, when I tell you, my mom was out of town, so he ended up staying at the house with me. We get up the next morning, and they were supposed to take me to the strip club. It was him and my two other friends. I got to throwing up, and all I could hear was, as I'm laying on the ground outside the front door, motherfucker ain't getting in my car. Motherfucker ain't gonna throw up in my car. Needless to say, we didn't make it to the strip club that night. Richard threw me in the shower with my clothes on. He was like, bro, I'm not taking your clothes off. Got into bed, went to his house the next day. My mom called over there, and she said, oh, you're alive? I'm like, yeah. She said as soon as she opened the door, the smell of alcohol just hit her in the face. She saw all the bottles. She said, you lucky you're not dead from alcohol poisoning. I didn't know what none of that shit was at the time. When I got home, it was over, between beer and alcohol, it was over 12 bottles of alcohol and like 5 or 6 40s. Jeez. Drink all of that shit. How are y'all old enough to remember when Bigfoot Pizza first came out?
Mm-hmm.
From Pizza Hut, the Bigfoots. We went through 3 of those. Yeah. That's probably the best memory I love to tell. That dude was, because it goes on with everybody saying he was such a generous dude. He bought everything. He literally bought all the liquor. And to this day, I used to tell him I would never, ever get that drunk with you again. But yeah, that's my guy. All right, somebody else can have the floor now.
I just want to tell a quick how I met Richard story. I'm not going to go into all of our relationship yet. I just want to tell a quick how I met Richard story. I've told somebody this, but here we go. We met in the 5th grade. 10 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, I don't remember. 41 years ago, I met this man. I had just moved to Rialto. I walked into class and I had to sit next to him. He was the first person I ever met in Rialto, the first friend I ever had. A couple of days after I'd gotten there, we're hanging out, we're talking, me, Richard, Ben Carrillo, three of us. And the bookmobile decides to roll into the school. I don't know if you guys remember the bookmobile back in the day. It was like a little yellow school bus with books and stuff, right? Posters, and you trade it, bookmarks, all that stuff. So me and Richard, being the vatos that we were back in the day, robbed it. We went in there, helped ourselves to a few books and some some bookmarks and stuff, and bounced out. Again, 3 days after meeting you, man, here we are robbing a book fucking club. Anyway, so we bounce out. A couple days later, we get called into the office. Principal's sitting there, and there's these two girls that I guess had crushes on us or something. And they had turned us in, and we ended up getting suspended. So the girls we're like, why did you turn us in? And the girls are like, well, we don't want you to grow up to be thieves. And Richard's like, well, then should we turn you in makeup? And she's like, why? And I was like, because we don't want you to grow up to be whores.
Oh,
we got 3 more days added to our suspension on that one.
He's been a menace to society.
And that was the first Richard story that I have. We knew from that day we weren't going anywhere.
The bar is high. Wow.
Right. I figured no one is going to top that shit. We good.
Just going to shut up and watch now.
Right.
That's all I'm going to do.
Whores.
That was 41 years ago. I've gotten no better. Neither one of us have gotten any better since then. So.
Oh, man.
You're talking about a man that called himself.
Huh?
I said, you're talking about a man that called himself Big Baby Jesus.
Right. On that note, I'm going to share another story from Kelly. Here we go.
In 2008 or 2009, somewhere around there at Fantasy, he was my favorite DJ. He wouldn't make me go on stage if I didn't want to. He was a hot mess when I met him. He was drinking heavily and acting out, and he was just my kind of guy at the time. I instantly fell in love with him. We were really good friends. He was a protector. He was someone that I could call at 3, 4, 2 in the morning. He never slept back then. Never ever slept. He was gonna answer. He was there for me when I had nobody. He made me feel cared about. If I had no family, he was my family. If I had no one to listen to me, he was listening to me. He stayed on the phone with me lots of nights until I fell asleep because my anxiety was so bad. When I had to leave my ex-husband and I had no one to help me move, I called him. He was there, loaded the U-Haul, complained about helping me move because this wasn't the first time. And I know that he cared about a lot of people. He loved my daughters. He took them to Disneyland for his birthday. He was just a very special person, and there's no one I knew that was like him. Nobody. And I'll probably never meet anyone like him again. Well, I'm sure I won't. He had just texted me on Tuesday a picture of his new grandbaby. He was so excited. He was so proud. When I heard this on Thursday, I didn't believe it.
Sorry, my bad.
No, I just talked to him on Tuesday. There's no way you're talking about some other Richard. I just don't understand. He was the best man that I knew, that I've ever known. And he was the prettiest. He would want that added in. And that's all I have to say. I'll just be waiting to see him again.
Yep. They just keep pouring in like that, guys. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, everybody, for sharing their stories about Richard. I know they're not easy to share, and I apologize for messing up in the middle there. That was my bad. Just trying to keep adding things, you know. But it's not easy.
AJ's trying to run the bat cave over here. It's like there's screens everywhere and there's so many boxes. It's
Quit pushing buttons.
dude.
I can't up it. I pushed the button. And everybody keeps saying he was the prettiest. Anybody else want to take the stage now?
Yeah, I'll say something. I haven't known Richard as long as most of you, but I mean, like AJ and Joey, we instantly. I mean, it's like I knew them all my life. You know, it felt like we had grown up together. We had a lot of the same experiences. His parents were a lot like my parents. My parents were the ones that would always take in my friends who didn't, I had a pretty good, I had a pretty good home life, but, a lot of my friends didn't. And his parents sounded just like mine. So we talked about that a lot. He was always, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of him, he was just a stand-up guy. He was always honest. He was always down for whatever. He was always willing to help. I mean, he was just a sturdy guy, and he was funny. He's always funny. When we first met, we both instantly became fans of each other's art. We had a lot of the same interests artistically, and we, without knowing it, we mostly just saw each other at conventions or shows or whatever. But whenever we'd see each other, we'd show each other our art, and we had several times we had drawn the same thing. A lot of times used the same reference pictures, for our Frankenstein illustrations or Maleficent or whatever. And so that was always, it just seemed like I'd known him forever. And is just a couple of weeks ago at our the St. Patrick's stream. That was the first time that when I picked him up, it was the first time me and him had ever hung out just by ourselves, which is weird because we've been hanging out for 10 or 15 years now. But like I said, I always saw him at shows and stuff. But no, I picked him up and we chatted all the way to AJ's house, and it was cool. It was the first time, like I said, the first time we had ever hung out, and we just bullshitted and stuff, and it was cool. And it's so weird because I remember thinking, I was like, man, we should hang out more, and then a couple weeks later you get the news. But like I said, it's my first impression of every time I think of him. He was just a stand-up dude, always willing to buy the drinks and buy the food, and not because he was showing off, but he generally just liked making people happy. He was that's when he was at his happiest, when people were having a good time and he could help people have a good time. And I'm gonna regret that I didn't get to spend more time with him. But I'm always thankful for the time we did get. Like all the pictures we have are like from shows and stuff, but we're always at a dinner or having drinks, and I mean, it's just good times every time I saw him. So I'm gonna miss that.
Indeed. Thank you, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
And I'll go a little bit. I'll be quick though. There are actually two Richards that I know. Me and Richard go way back to our late teens. We met out of Rialto, Fontana, the edge of, and stuff. And we played a lot of role-playing games together. I was really, really lucky to have, he had a really good group of friends, and they had a slot open, and they just kind of shuffled me in, and it was perfect. And we played a lot of role-playing games. We played a lot of hockey. He taught me how to be a goon in hockey. I mean this in the best way. And it was kind of a metaphor for who he was, because he was a very fierce defender of everybody. Anytime we'd go out and we'd have adventures, as crazy as we got, he was always there to right next to you to take a punch or to charge and get in the way. And then we kind of lost touch for about 15, 20 years, man, until the Forbidden Panel kicked off. And then AJ was like, hey, I'm doing this thing over here with Justin and Richard. You want to be a part of this? I was like, well, okay. And we reconnected, and it was cool because he'd kind of become that person. When I met him, he had a reputation as head-eating Russian barbarian from our role-playing games. And you realize that he's not really that. That's just this facade, and below it, he's this really, this really great, cool dude. And when we met again later on, he had kind of become that person more now. It had come forward, and it was very cool. And it was cool to reconnect, and we did a lot of shows together. That was fun. Yeah, brilliant artist. I don't know. Gonna miss him. It's hard.
And I miss him spitting on the back of somebody's head.
I wasn't going to talk about some of the nastier things that we did. We should be spotlighting some of our bad adventures. Come on now. But yeah, that's part of why he was cool, though. He was right there. He was like a Spartan, when we were kids. When we were in our teens. He was your shield mate, and it was cool. Looks like when we played hockey, we were literally shield mates. He was the only other, we played defense together. It was fun, he was cool like that.
He always had your back.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Always.
That's what was nice about hanging out with him, is that, I was reading some of the other words that somebody had said, that she had said that on Thursday she felt a little less safe in the world. And truer words can't be spoken, because when he was around you, you knew he had your back no matter what.
He wouldn't even ask why. If you needed something, he wouldn't even ask why. He'd just say, "What do you need?"
Right. Or I know a guy.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, let's show her words. This is from Gabby. It's gonna be about a minute long of the words that she said, so that you guys can have time to read it and pull it in, and then some photos are going to be following after there. Okay, so here we go. Fuck, I can't just do that. Thank you, Gabby. She sent those in today. Um, pretty much reflecting everything we've all said here. You know, once you got in his once you got into his orbit, you were part of the family. So, Alexander, we haven't heard from you much.
Yeah, I've just been kind of taking it all in because I think, yeah, out of everyone, I'm probably the person that knew Richard the less amount of time, but not, sometimes it's not the quality of time that you have, but it's the quantity of everything. And I had met Joel
Facts.
first at at a GI Joe convention that my buddies all because I had moved up here because all my family members moved up here, normally from South Bay in California, and I didn't know anybody up here. So mostly I just, my brother's here. He's a truck driver. He's always gone. So there's really no one up here. So I met Joel, and he was getting on me because I was an inbox collector, and he was saying you definitely don't need to be an inbox collector. So Richard was always the I used the point of like a police captain because he was constantly getting on Joel about staying at the table. And Joel would be running around and Richard would be like, I gotta sit here with this guy, watch his table and everything. So, we basically bonded that and every time we would go to an event or something, it would end up going in and out or doing something. So but because Joel works so long and he's such a busy individual, Richard and I ended up having way more time to speak. So we would constantly have a conversation because Joel is, as you know, Joel, he's very non-available most of the time.
Squirrel.
So,
Squirrel.
so, so as Rich and I
Joel
spent
also
more
likes
time,
to add on 30 to 40 hours to his
yes,
destination time.
yes,
He takes CPT beyond.
yes, he does. Yes, way beyond it, way beyond it. But
Nice to see.
we would end up talking and find out that we had a couple of passions together. And then he told me he was doing YouTube, and we had started doing a lot of YouTube stuff over here. And I would watch his stuff, and I would see that he always said, "I'm a little frustrated with certain things." Well, hey man, why don't you pop over and we'll try to promote as best you can? And we just started talking more and more. Found out he was not just an artist, but the artist, which was always like from customization. There wasn't anything that he couldn't do, and that was always surprising because there was always a little something extra with him. If you thought that you had seen like the best of him, there was always another layer to him, and that was always surprising. I love people's passion, and his passion was just continuous. And the more time we spent, the more thing to know that he was not only was the bouncer, not only was he an artist, not only was he if you knew it didn't matter what kind of line or anything else like from any toy line, he knew what it was. He gave a definitive answer to it. And again, like AJ said, if he didn't know, he knew a guy that would know. And we had since he was such a great artist, we had started some endeavors outside in the in different arenas, and we thought that he would be the best. And I was I was out in Toy Atlanta, and we had a big announcement, and he was part of that announcement. And to come home and have a conversation with him, and just the night before, I got the really terrible news that he had passed and everything. We were on. I was like, sometimes in life you have an incredibly high, and I don't know why you have to have incredible lows. It just you have to have sunshine and rain, and I don't understand it sometimes. And it was just one of those things that just it was like you've got the greatest news and you get punched in the gut from it. And that's exactly the way the last I would say probably the last week and a half was is that you just you know the the part of not speaking to people is always the thing that kind of surprises you. You have a moment where you're talking and everything, and then you know that you can't speak to that person again. It sets it into your soul in the worst of ways. And he was one of those type of people that you constantly wanted to speak to because it was always insightful. It's always something that he was either, you know, he knew or he was guiding you to it. And again, like everyone else said, I felt like the world was a little bit more emptier without him. And we could laugh about this because again, he was a master customizer. So I know I got to get my soul right so I can actually make it into heaven. Because when I get there, he's going to have those exclusive angels already customized for me. And then whatever figures I'm missing, he's going to tell me I know a guy. And that's how I always think about it, is that I will see him again some way, and he will tell me something else that I would need, or he would show me a way. So it's extremely sad, but also um, incredibly thankful for the amount of time that I had with him because it shaped so much of the stuff that I'm doing now. And he had a drive and a push that really kind of still to me, it's like it pushes me now even harder because I know that he had the drive to keep constantly putting everyone else through. So now I have to go on. I have to keep doing things and striving just because it would just disrespect his memory if I didn't. So beautiful individual. He was just a good friend, and I'm blessed in the life to have known him.
Absolutely. Joel, go ahead.
Hey, I just wanted to. Alex brought up something that I think is important for like all of you guys to hear. Is that he did have a lot of things that were on the verge of happening and working out. You were talking about the ups and downs. This is a down for us, but he's not going to see a lot of these things come to fruition. But he was on the up, where he was. There was things to be positive about and things to be excited about. And we are on the down because we're here. But for Richard, I think, because I feel this was something that happened just, he had plans for the next day. He had talked to so many people that week, that day. You had plans to talk the next day after that. So many of us had that. So this just happened to him. But he was busy. He had so much to do. So however you can help that make you feel a little better, that I think he was feeling a lot better than he maybe had for a while, and he was feeling pretty good about some stuff happening. So that is what we would want for anybody,
The light was coming back.
Yeah, to feel like you're kicking ass, and then oh shit, you slipped in the shower, kind of thing. But you were kicking ass before, and so if that helps at all. So Alex, thanks for bringing up a lot of those things that you guys were a part of too, together specifically.
Yeah.
So all right, that's my piece on that.
And with that, we have another one of his friends that we're going to go ahead and post up here. Give me 1 second here. Here we go.
I got to know you for a little over 10 years. Doesn't feel like all that long. In that time, I got to see someone who was fiercely protective of family, who would go above and beyond for his people and was always there if you really needed him. I don't even know where to go from here. I just try to focus on the fun times, the good memories, the time spent behind the booth at comic book conventions, the movies and the random conversations, and just the knowledge of who you were as a man. I'm gonna miss you, man, and all I can think is that Mr. Lightly Toasted here is gonna sit down, have a drink, and have one of those random conversations with you when I see you again on the other side.
That was our friend Anthony. We called him Lightly Toasted because he was light-skinned. And so it was just a joke that Richard and I would always mess with them about all the time.
The first time I've seen Anthony in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say. Anybody else want to come take the mic real quick? Andrea, you know.
I will. Shit, I don't even know how long I've known Richard because I don't remember when I met him. It was through AJ or Joey or the group of friends we've had for the last 30 years. But now I'm all tearing up. I haven't been the whole time. I swear that between the pizza and the Hallmark movies, those were the two things that I remember the most about him because those were the things we would talk about. Because he always liked about those things. And when we would do conventions and him and AJ arguing over how the booth was going to be set up, and me standing there trying to manage things going, you guys need to take it somewhere else, because they were both so passionate about what we were doing. And the support they both gave each other is beyond brothers.
Why you gotta make me cry now?
I know. We're all family. He was, So, but the Hallmark movies, the Christmas movies, was my favorite. And the last time I talked to him about that was New Year's Eve when we were on the PanelCast. That and his grandbaby coming. Yeah, for the dog. That's what he left him on for.
Hey, wait a minute. That Mustang did work. We rode around town all the time in that purple Mustang, baby.
All the kind words coming into the chat room, guys. I don't know. It's just amazing. All the love for Richard.
I think I'm gonna walk around with a bag of sugar in my pocket tomorrow just because you brought it up.
And tell everybody that you're pretty.
The first time I met, well, not the first time. Sean and I were in class one day, and for some reason we had to bring some sort of condiment from the house, like for a dish or something representing where we come from or some shit. I don't remember. Sean comes walking up to me sweating, and he's like, "Dude, look what I got." I'm sweating all the way here. I was worried the cops were going to pull me over. I'm like, "What? You just got a Ziploc bag." And he unrolls it. He's like, "I'm a black man walking with a Ziploc bag of white powder. What do you think?" I'm like, "Sean, we're 15. Dude, we're okay."
Doesn't matter.
Does not matter.
And in Rialto.
That's what I'm saying. That's Rialto. It does not matter.
It don't matter in Rialto. They would have took you down and cooked with your sugar later. That's
Man. Oh, I need it.
So you bring that up. There's okay. I'm going to tell everybody the day of, because I'm sure everyone is curious now. What happened, how it happened, and everything. So I'm going to tell you my experience about it. The wife and I were getting our taxes done, and we got home about 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I see I've missed 9 calls between Steven and Freddie and Richard. I've missed like 12 text messages and a video call. I call him, and Steven's like, "Hey, can you come over?" I'm like, "No, I don't have a car right now. I just got in a car accident. My car's totaled." He's like, "Well, my dad died." I'm like, "Did you call the cops?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I'm on the way." Hung up the phone. My wife was right there. She took us down there immediately. When I got there, James was out front. Gave him a big hug, walked inside. Freddie and Steven were there. They told me what happened. Richard was still in the back room in his room. Apparently what had happened was that one of them had to use the restroom, but the public restroom was being used by a cat giving birth. So when they went into Richard's room to go use the restroom there, they found Richard face down on the floor. I see a lot of people dropping out. I'm guessing because this is the part you don't want to hear. And I'm sorry if you don't want to hear it. I totally understand. But I've been getting bombarded with these questions all week, and I've been saving them up for this. So, where was I?
Richard was in the house.
Face down in the bathroom.
Okay, so once they found the body, they called 911. Well, they called me first. I didn't answer the phone. They called 911. They called James, and they kept trying to call me. And then I went there. There was a police officer on the scene. But they were just there to secure the body because, I don't know, we were going to prop it up and braid its hair or some shit. I don't fucking know. But so we sat there till 7:30. Good 4 or 5 hours with Richard in the back room on the floor, waiting for the coroner to come and pick him up. They finally did. Took them about a half hour to go over everything. They came out. I asked the coroner, "What? Can you tell what happened?" He said, "Right now it looks like natural causes. He's got one hand up here and his hand here and his face down. It looked like he just fell down and tried to catch himself." And then they said that was it. And then they left. James and I sat there for a good another half hour or so, made sure the kids were okay the whole time, and making phone calls, all that stuff. And then we left. And that was the day. One of the shittiest days I've ever had to have recently. So the fun part of that day, because there was a fun part, believe it or not, was if you know us, you know we have bad timing for our sense of humor to come into play.
Always.
There's no such thing as too soon.
We started discussing what we wanted to do with Richard's tattoos.
Oh, God.
We wanted to frame them, stick them up in the room somewhere, something. I thought maybe it'd be cool if we made a Richard skin suit and just went back there and took the skin off, and then we could all share the tattoos around town. We could go to the conventions wearing these suits around, so Richard could still go to conventions. You know, the police officer was sitting there like in disgust, in horror, looked over at my wife. She's like, "Do you hear this?" And my wife's like, "Eh." I'm like, "What are you talking about? We're going to have to call her mom to hem the suit because he was taller than me and I can't wear it."
Richard would have said, "The only reason you're pretty is because you're wearing me."
Right.
So who was going to get the hair for the wig, Huggy?
That's what I was saying. I said, I claimed his hair.
Oh my God.
I said, "Can I pull his hair to make a wig so I can finally cover this bald spot?"
No.
The cop was like in just shocked, you know. Then Stephen was like, you know, my dad, Freddie needs pants. Walmart doesn't carry them, or Richard's got some in the back. Just go grab some.
Oh, yeah.
We were just trying to ignore the fact that Richard was still there for 8 hours, you know, just sitting back there, and nothing was being done. So, and yes, when they finally wheeled Richard out, we were having a serious conversation about pulling out the lightsabers and holding him over him while they rolled him out.
Why you didn't do that?
We didn't have enough time to get them.
That would have been dope.
As it is, I barely had enough time to say, "I love you, I love you, brother."
Yeah,
Before they wheeled him out.
the lightsaber thing would have been dope.
Yeah. So, like I said, we were trying to lighten the situation up because of the horror that we were sitting there living in at the time. You know.
What's really
And to do so in Richard style humor. Because he would have been joking too. Like he would have been doing
Yeah, he would have laughed his ass off, dude.
Yeah.
There was nothing inappropriate you were going to say that
Right.
he wouldn't have appreciated. I think he would have been upset if you just had a lot of very Leave It to Beaver things to say. Would have really not been.
Yeah, like Steven says, it took forever to come get them, but they looked fast as hell. So yeah, you know, it's just how Richard was.
I'd have been like, wait, let's stick his middle fingers up on the way out.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Or at least one, just have it hanging out the bag. Like, you know,
Right.
He's gonna go out of this world the way he came in.
That's right. Janelle, we haven't heard from you yet. Did you want to share anything?
Yeah, sure. So I've been thinking this week about trying to like pinpoint when I actually met Richard, and I can't even remember a time when he wasn't around. Like since FP and since I had my kids and we moved back to Redlands, like I don't ever remember him not being there. And I think that's the most important thing, is that he was always there. He was one of those constant absolutes that you knew that he was like, who's coming? Well, obviously Richard. Okay, who else? Like we always knew that he was going to be there, and he was always present, and he was always just on top of everything and wanted to be part of whatever you were doing, and it was awesome. And when he had the toy store, we were so excited to come in and see you guys as often as we could. And I was always a little apprehensive because I didn't really know him that well. And I get kind of weird about that. Like when I don't know somebody that well, like I kind of clam up a little bit, I guess. And I don't often like initiate conversation. And I would go in there, and just being around him for like 5 minutes, I would totally have my mind set at ease, and he would just be like, oh, hey, it's you again. All right, cool. What are you doing? And it was like never a big deal. It was never like a, hey, why haven't you been here in so long? And you know, he was never one to guilt trip. He was never one to, it was just exciting to see him, you know, like I would get nervous, like, oh, I haven't seen him in a long time. And then he would just act like no time has passed. And he was always so kind and so generous with my kids, and always made them feel welcome and safe. And that's a huge deal for me, since having kids in like the convention world and in the circles that we travel in. It's always been really important to me that the kids feel safe and that I feel safe with them. And I always felt like we were safe with him. And in the store, he would always talk to them like they were people and not like kids, you know, and he always took the time to say hi to them. And yeah, I think the hardest thing for me was the realization that this constant presence was not there anymore. And that's, as someone that didn't know him as well as probably everyone else here, he was just one of those pillars that was part of the core makeup of our group. And even if I didn't really know him that well, I'm going to feel that absence forever. And the rest of my family will too.
Big empty holes for all of us.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely.
All right, I got one more video to show. This is gonna be a long one. It's 10 minutes long. It's one I put together today. Yeah. Here we go for that one. So there's a bit of a story with these, so I'm going to go ahead and talk. This is how Richard would start the day at work, at the store, you know. This would normally go on for about 12 hours. While Freddie ran around like crazy. Sometimes he would unbox stuff. Sometimes not. But this time he did. We got a Shorty from the Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And, you know, so he decided to put it together. He's very excited. Here it is put together. He's so proud of himself that day. This was a video of it dancing. Apparently, Adobe didn't like the video of it dancing. That's fine because it's just covering up the fact that Richard just goes back to his normal workday after that. Which is, you know, sleeping again. So that was, you know, every day at work for Richard.
It's a hard tilt.
Right.
It's a hard tilt.
Now, this is one of the few times I've only seen the man cry, and it comes with a story. So I'm going to pause it right here, and I'm sorry for the size of this picture. I can't do any better because I suck. There was a free comic book day that we did with 4-Color Fantasies where Richard started doing this thing called Color Pages, and he would do outlines of artwork of famous characters and stuff. You know, Superman, Wonder Woman, all that stuff. And then he would put it out, and for free, kids would get it and then color it in. That's what he was hoping for anyway. So here's a couple kids with his sketch cards that he was very excited for, like it was first time. And then here's a kid coloring in Rich's artwork. I took this picture and I showed it to him at the booth. I don't know if you remember, Joey, you were there. And he cried. Tear came down, and I was like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "That's all I ever wanted. To see other kids with my artwork enjoying and being happy." And so that's how we got this picture. And I wanted to share that with everybody because that was something, you know. That just tells you the kind of heart that Richard had. You know what I mean? And I was very proud of him that day, too. Yes, Stephen. He worked himself to the bone at the store. Yes, we know. There's more video coming. Don't worry. just takes so long to get to. I want to just emphasize. Now, at one point, Richard joined a private army. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but the rest of this is just going to be slides played out to our music, my diagram, who Richard also like shows of all pictures of me and Richard doing some crazy shit. So hopefully this brings more smiles and tears, right? I'm going to shut up and listen to you. Again, sorry for some of the sizes. Richard was a short guy.
What are these postage stamps? Mr. Richard postage stamp edition?
These are pictures for fans, okay? These are movies for fans.
Too pretty. Too pretty.
As you can tell, Anthony was very tired every time we went out. Now this one has a story. What you see in the foreground is me misbehaving. What you see in the background is Richard looking away like the good friend he is and just letting it happen. Yeah.
Well, I'm wearing that shirt right now.
He's the one right there. Here's what's funny. When I first met Richard, we were the same height. Also, this is him at a sausage party. You know how much he loves sausage parties. And I met Richard, him and I were the same height. Then he got taller, and now I'm taller. So
you're an idiot.
I win there, Richard. And there you have it. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Or, it brought a smile to somebody's face at least.
That was beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, brother, for sending me the link.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for putting all this together, man. It was great.
Appreciate all you guys. I'm about to sign off. I got a very early morning.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing.
I'll hit you up sometime tomorrow, bro.
Okay.
You all right?
I cry now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let it out, bro. Let it go.
We'll
Let
do
it
it.
go. Let it go. Yeah. All right, you guys. Y'all have a blessed evening.
You too, bud. It was nice meeting you, man.
You too.
Good night.
All right, you guys.
Later, bro.
Yeah, take care, guys. I'll talk to you soon, AJ.
All right, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Good night.
Good night.
Take care, everybody.
Good night.
You too.
Couple people left.
Yeah.
Anybody?
If you want us to be.
To try to end it a little lighter. First time I met Richard, he told me like 3 really cool things that were awesome, like that I was doing great, and then like 5 that I had completely fucked up. It was like the first time I met him, but he said it to me in such a great, like, helpful way. You know what I mean? Like, I think he did use the word fucked up, but he, immediately from that point, like everybody was saying, I wanted to talk to him about whatever we could. But there's people that when you talk to them, if I asked them a question, I was gonna get that answer. So I need to make sure I knew what question I was asking. But I mean, I always you were gonna get 100% Richard. I don't feel like there was a wasted moment. If you think about your own times with him, there wasn't any idle time. I never had an idle moment with the guy. We were going to talk about something or look at something, and he could get in my ass in the same sentence and then turn around and say some profound, nice things to me that really, again, he just, and even when he would be, like I said, up my ass about something, it was because he wanted me to do better at something that he knew I could. So, so one quick thing. I had this little 78 Luke Skywalker that's been spinning around the entire time. The reason I brought it is because so Richard and I would off and on not have money, but we had to deal each other plastic crack in the form of toys. And so we did a lot of trading. Also, by the way, he had layaway. If you were unaware of that, that was something I would ask him what he wanted when I would get to go get food. And he'd say, "Hey, just want we have layaway." He would tell me that at completely most irrelevant, funny times. But sometimes I would bring something in to trade with Richard, and I would say, "Richard, I'm going to give you call it. I'm going to give you this thing." I trusted. He knew I knew what it was worth. He knew what it was worth. And I said, just give me something you think is, and I loved it because I never knew what the fuck I was going to get. But 100% of the time they were things that they came directly from his personal collection, his childhood. And so that Luke was something that he gave me once, and he said, "Hey Joel, I think this is a fabulous swap." I don't remember what the fuck I traded him for. It doesn't matter. But he gave me that, and he told me that that was his. He still had the pistol. It was perfect, and that was just an example of how it went with Richard. So I could leave those things to him, and he would just. I actually happened more than 4 or 5 times past 3 o'clock in the morning. I would have to call him to tell him because I popped the head off of one thing and put it on something else, and it worked out so good that he was the only person I could call without feeling like the largest nerd in the history of people. And he would tell me, "Dude, it's fucking late, but that's dope. Send me a picture." So, I just want to get that in with a few people, and that's why I brought that. But that's probably similar to many things you guys had too, in some kind of way. I could talk about a million things, but
we're stoned and we're starting.
But yeah, I don't want to do that to you guys. Anyway, this is a testament to Richard, though, that this much and so much more is going to happen with him around, because we're just going to be busy, really busy doing things, with him in mind, So anyway, thanks you guys.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks everybody for coming. Yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Thanks for putting this together, AJ.
Thank you, AJ.
Thank you, AJ.
Yeah. Least I could do.
Be good to yourselves, you guys.
Night.
Good night, friends.